wasn't supposed to be like this. My heart pounded, and everything around me felt blurry, like I was seeing through a fog. I could barely breathe, let alone think. Sophia, the one person I thought I knew better than anyone, had just shattered everything I believed in. I stood there, staring at the phone screen, unable to comprehend what I was reading. Her message was clear, but it felt like a cruel joke. "Jake, I'm sorry, but it's over.
Ow.
I'm with Ethan now. I hope you can understand." My fingers tightened around the phone, the glass screen cold against my skin. Ethan, the name echoed in my head, louder than anything else. Ethan, her billionaire from New York? Are you kidding me? I muttered to myself, pacing back and forth in the small apartment we had shared for nearly 3 years. My chest tightened, and I felt my world slipping away. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I dropped the phone onto the couch, my hands shaking. How could she do this? After everything we'd been through, everything, I thought we were going to be together forever. A flash of our first date hit me. The way she smiled at me, her eyes lighting up when she laughed. The endless hours we spent talking about our future. All of that now just memories gone, like they'd never mattered. The sound of the door opening snapped me back to reality. Mason stepped inside, his face unreadable. He was my best friend, but today, ... Today nothing made sense. He'd been trying to reach me all day, and now here he was, probably wondering why I wasn't answering. "Jake, what's going on?" He closed the door behind him and looked at me, his eyes scanning the room. "I tried calling you, man. You didn't answer. I didn't know what to say. The words wouldn't come." I ran a hand through my hair, frustration and pain battling inside me. "Sophia, she's with Ethan now." I finally managed to choke out, my voice cracking. "She left me, Mason." Mason frowned, stepping closer. "What? No way. ... She. With him? I don't." "Yeah," I interrupted, shaking my head. "It's all over. She just ... left me. And for him, a damn billionaire." The sympathy he was trying to hide. Mason had been my friend for years, but he didn't understand this. Couldn't. He hadn't been through what I'd just found out. "Jake, man, you've got to move on from this," Mason said, his voice soft. But I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear it from anyone. "How do I move on from this, Mason?" I snapped, my voice rising. She was everything to me. And now she's just gone. She doesn't even care. "Jake, she was toxic for you. She chose him over you, and she's not worth this pain," Mason said, his tone more firm now, as if he was trying to shake some sense into me. I wanted to argue, to shout at him, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the exhaustion, or the fact that deep down, I knew he was right. But I couldn't accept it, not yet. "But why him? Why Ethan? What does he have that I don't?" I muttered, collapsing onto the couch. My head was spinning, and my mind kept flashing back to the way she looked at him like he was the answer to everything. Like she had been waiting for him to come along and rescue her from me. Mason sat next to me, letting the silence stretch out between us. He didn't have an answer. None of us did. I thought we were building something," I said softly, the words almost sounding foreign coming out of my mouth. I trusted her. I trusted her more than anyone in my life, and now, I don't know who I am anymore. Mason placed a hand on my shoulder, his grip firm and comforting. "You'll figure it out, man. You always do." But I wasn't so sure. How could I trust myself, let alone anyone else, when the one person who mattered most had betrayed me in such a cruel way? I leaned back on the couch, staring at the ceiling. The room felt empty, and so did I. There was nothing left but the overwhelming ache in my chest. And yet, somewhere deep down, I knew I'd never let this go. Not until I had the answers. Not until I had justice. Sophia thought she had one. She thought I'd let her walk away without consequence. But I wasn't ready to let go of this. Not yet. Not when I still felt everything she'd taken from me. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Every time my phone buzzed or someone knocked at the door, I just stared at the wall, waiting for the sound to stop. I couldn't bear talking to anyone, not after what she did to me. Sophia, that name kept ringing in my ears like a haunting melody, but I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to remember the way we used to be, how she used to make me laugh when I had a bad day. No. How she held me at night when I couldn't sleep. How everything seemed possible when we were together. No. All I could think about was how she left. For him, Ethan. I sat on the couch, phone in my hand, scrolling through messages I couldn't bring myself to read. Mason had texted me about a dozen times. "Jake, man, call me. Let's talk, please." I wanted to reply. I really did. But what was the point? What could I possibly say? My words would feel empty, and my emotions a jumbled mess that I didn't want anyone to see. I threw the phone on the coffee table and sank into the couch, staring blankly at the TV, not even paying attention to it. The hours passed and I didn't move. The silence. It was suffocating, but it was all I had left. So maybe if I shut everyone out, it won't hurt as much. There was a knock at the door. I didn't move. They'd come to check on me. They're all worried about me. I heard the door creak open. Mason, I didn't need to look up. I knew it was him. "Jake, you still here?" He called, his voice laced with concern. I didn't answer. Mason stepped inside. I could hear his footsteps approach, and then the sound of him sitting next to me on the couch. There was a long pause. "Jake, man, you gotta talk to me," he said quietly. I could feel the weight of his stare, even though I didn't look up. He knew something was wrong, but there was nothing he could say to make it better. Nothing anyone could say. "Don't want to talk," I muttered, the words barely coming out. It felt like I was choking on them. I took a deep breath, trying to keep myself together. "I just want to be left alone." Mason exhaled, his frustration evident. "You can't just hide from this, Jake. You've been shutting everyone out for days. Your family's worried. Your friends, ... They're worried. You need to face this. You need to deal with it." I squeezed my eyes shut. I didn't want to hear it. Deal with it. How the hell was I supposed to deal with it? The woman I loved had chosen someone else. Someone better, someone richer. "How do you expect me to just move on from this?" I snapped, finally looking at him. "You don't understand, Mason. She left me. She chose him. I don't know how to make sense of it." Mason shifted on the couch, leaning forward. "I get it, Jake. But shutting yourself off from everyone isn't going to help. It's just going to make it worse. You have to start taking care of yourself." I laughed bitterly. "Taking care of myself? You mean forgetting her? How am I supposed to do that?" "You don't forget her," he said, his voice calmer now. "But you can start focusing on things that matter. You can work through the pain, but you've got to let other people help you. You can't do this alone." I looked away, feeling a knot in my stomach. I didn't want to admit it, but he was right. The silence was killing me, but I wasn't ready to face anyone, especially not her. "So what now?" I asked, my voice low. "Do I just pick up the pieces and pretend everything's okay? Is that what you want me to do?" Mason didn't reply right away, just sat there, the weight of my words hanging in the air. Finally, he sighed. "No, I don't want you to pretend, but I want you to stop isolating yourself. You've got to make a choice, Jake. Do you want to keep sinking in this pain, or do you want to fight for your happiness? Because right now, you're letting it all slip away." I felt a sharp pang in my chest. Fight for my happiness. What did that even mean anymore? How could I fight when the one thing I wanted was already gone? But his words kept echoing in my mind. "Fight for your happiness." Mason clapped me on the back. "I'll give you space, man, but just know I'm here whenever you're ready to talk." I didn't respond. I watched as Mason stood and walked to the door, the silence swallowing up his retreating footsteps. The door shut behind him, and I was left alone again. What was I supposed to do now? I stood up, my muscles stiff from sitting too long, and walked over to the window. The city stretched out before me, alive with movement. But I felt ... frozen. Everything around me felt distant, like I was watching life through a window that I couldn't touch. I knew Mason was right, but the thought of fighting felt overwhelming. Fight for my happiness. How could I when I didn't even know where to begin? The darkness outside seemed to reflect what I felt inside. And then I realized something I wasn't ready to face. I had a choice. I could keep wallowing in my pain, letting it consume me, or I could try to move forward. It wouldn't be easy, but maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop hiding. For the first time in days, I took a deep breath and tried to calm the storm inside me. Tomorrow, I would make a choice. I couldn't keep living in the past, not like this. But for now, the silence was all I had. Maybe that was the hardest thing to accept. I didn't expect to hear from her again, but the call came, vibrating in my hand like a shock to my system. The name flashed on the screen, Sophia. I stared at it for a moment, the weight of it pulling at my chest. What the hell does she want now? My mind raced, and I almost let it go to voicemail. But something, maybe curiosity, maybe something else, made me swipe the screen. "Hello?" I said, my voice flat, as cold as I could make it. "Jake, .. Her voice came through, soft, hesitant. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to talk to you." I wasn't sure what to feel. Anger, pain, or was it something else entirely? I leaned back against the wall, the air in the room suddenly thick. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," I said, my voice cracking despite my attempt to sound indifferent. "You've already said everything you needed to say, Sophia. You left. That's all that matters. Please, just hear me out," she said, the desperation in her voice undeniable. I never wanted to hurt you. I never meant for things to turn out like this. Can we just meet? Please, Jake, I need to apologize. I owe you that much." A rush of conflicting feelings flooded through me. The words "I owe you that much" rang in my ears. I had heard them before too many times. Apologies. Regret, they felt like nothing more than hollow promises to me now. I pressed my hand against my forehead, trying to think. Part of me wanted to yell at her, to tell her how much she'd torn me apart. How could she do this? How could she? But another part of me, the part I hated the most, wanted to hear her out. The part that remembered the way her laughter used to fill the room, the way we could talk about anything and everything without holding back. The part that wanted to believe there was still something left worth saving. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I finally said, my voice raw. "You've hurt me, Sophia. I'm not sure I can just forget that." "I'm not asking you to forget," she replied quickly. "I just need a chance to explain. Please. Meet me at the old diner, the one on 4th Street. You remember it?" I closed my eyes. Of course I remembered. The diner had been our place. We spent so many late nights there, just talking, laughing, sharing everything that mattered. I took a deep breath. "Fine, I'll be there in an hour." The call ended, and I stood there for a long moment, staring at the phone in my hand. I shouldn't go. I shouldn't even give her the chance to explain herself. But something inside me pushed me forward, urging me to find out if her apologies were real, if her words had any weight. I grabbed my jacket and walked out the door, my footsteps heavier than usual, like I was carrying the weight of everything that had gone wrong in my life. The diner was quiet when I arrived, just like I remembered. The flickering neon lights outside cast a soft glow on the windows. As I stepped inside, the smell of coffee and fried food hit me, but it was nothing like the warmth I remembered. Sophia was already sitting in a booth, her hands nervously twisting together. She looked different, but then again, so did I. The woman I'd once known seemed far away, lost in time. Yet as I sat down across from her, it was like nothing had changed. Her eyes still held the same sadness that I remembered. "I didn't think you'd show up," she said softly, her gaze not meeting mine. "I almost didn't," I replied, my voice tight, "but I'm here. So talk." She took a deep breath. "Jake, I don't even know where to start. I was ... selfish and scared. And he offered me everything I thought I needed. But none of it mattered once I realized what I was losing." Her words hung in the air, but they felt too simple, too easy. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But how could I? How could I just forget the hurt, the betrayal? "You left me for him," I said quietly, my voice almost a whisper. "How do I just let that go?" "I don't expect you to," she replied, her eyes finally meeting mine, full of guilt and regret. "But I'm not asking you to forgive me right away. I just need you to know that I was wrong. I chose the wrong things, Jake, and I've been miserable without you. I miss us. ... I miss you." I felt my chest tighten, a rush of memories flooding my mind. The way she smiled at me when we first met. The late-night drives, the laughter, the comfort. Those were the moments I'd always thought would last. But then I remembered the pain. The emptiness she'd left behind when she walked away without a second thought. Man, I wasn't sure I could ever get past that. "I don't know if I can go back to what we had," I said slowly, each word heavy with the weight of everything I'd been feeling. "You've hurt me too much."
Oh.
Her face crumpled slightly, like I had just shattered her world. She didn't say anything for a long moment. She stared at me, her tears barely holding back. "Maybe we can't go back," she whispered, but maybe we can start again. A new beginning, without the past between us. I shook my head, my mind spinning with all the things I wanted to say, but couldn't. My heart felt heavy, but something inside me was starting to stir. Could I really forgive her? Sophia had caused me so much pain, but she was still here, sitting in front of me, vulnerable, apologizing. And I realized with a sickening twist in my stomach that I wasn't entirely ready to walk away from her. Not yet. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall, the silence pressing in on me. Revenge. The word had been echoing in my mind ever since that meeting with Sophia. She thought she could walk back into my life, say a few words, and somehow make everything right. But I didn't feel any peace after our conversation. No, I felt anger. A fire that burned every time I thought about Ethan. Ethan, the guy who stole everything from me, my girlfriend, my trust, my future. He had everything I didn't: money, power, the life I thought I could build with Sophia. And now he was the one she had chosen. But did I want revenge? Was that really what I needed? I leaned back, running my fingers through my hair. Jake. I snapped out of my thoughts when I heard the voice. Rachel. She was standing in the doorway, her figure outlined by the dim hallway light. She had been calling and texting me for days, checking in, making sure I was okay. And for some reason, every time I saw her name on my screen, a small part of me felt comforted. Yeah, I answered, forcing a smile as I looked up at her. You okay? Rachel asked softly, stepping into the room. She didn't wait for me to answer, sitting down next to me. You've been quiet. ... distant. I let out a heavy sigh. I'm fine, I said, but even I could tell it wasn't convincing. She studied me for a moment, her brow furrowing. You're not fine. I can see it. I couldn't help but let out a dry laugh. What do you want me to say, Rachel? I'm angry. So angry. She was silent for a beat, as if weighing her words carefully. Then she spoke, her voice gentle but firm. I know you're hurt, Jake, but you have to let go. You have to decide if you want to hold on to all of this pain, or if you want to move forward. I shook my head. How do I move forward? After everything Sophia did, how can I just let it go? She chose him. She ... left me. Rachel's hand touched mine, a small but comforting gesture. I don't have the answers, Jake, but holding on to revenge, to anger, it's only going to destroy you. I stared at our hands for a long time, the weight of her words sinking in. Maybe she was right. But how could I not feel this rage? How could I look at Ethan and not want to tear everything he had down? You think I'm supposed to just forgive them? I asked, my voice a little harsher than I intended. After what they did to me? Rachel didn't flinch. I'm not asking you to forgive them, Jake. But what's the alternative? You can't change what's already happened. Revenge might feel good for a moment, but it won't bring you peace. All it will do is keep you stuck in the past. I knew she was right. Deep down, I knew she was right. But a part of me, the part that was still hurt, still broken, wanted to go to Ethan. I wanted to look him in the eye, to make him feel what I felt. And then, just like that, my phone buzzed. I grabbed it instinctively, already knowing who it was. Sophia, can we talk again? I need to explain more, please. The message burned into my mind. I wanted to ignore it. I wanted to delete it and move on. But instead I typed back, fine, meet me at the diner. I hit send before I could stop myself. Rachel watched me closely, her expression unreadable. You're really going to see her again? She asked quietly. I nodded, feeling the weight of my decision settle into my chest. I have to. I need to know if she's being real. I need to know if she really feels sorry for what she did, or if she's just trying to make herself feel better. Rachel didn't respond, but I could see the worry in her eyes. Jake, she said softly, you can't let her back in so easily. Don't do this to yourself again. But I wasn't sure I had a choice. The diner was empty when I arrived. The usual hum of conversation and clinking dishes was absent, replaced by the low buzz of the fluorescent lights. I spotted her right away. Sophia sat at the same booth we'd always shared, her hands folded on the table, her eyes glued to the empty coffee cup in front of her. When she looked up and saw me, her face seemed to soften, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite read. Was it regret? Guilt? Or just hope? Jake, she whispered, almost as if she was afraid to speak too loud, afraid to disturb the fragile silence between us. Thank you for coming. I didn't say anything at first. I just sat down across from her, the weight of everything between us pushing down on my chest. "I've missed you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never wanted to hurt you, Jake. You have to believe that." I wanted to believe her. God, how badly I wanted to. But the anger, the betrayal was still there, eating at me, making it impossible to just forgive and forget. "You had a choice, Sophia," I said, the words harsh as they left my mouth. "And you chose him." Her eyes welled up with tears. "I know, and I regret it every day. But it wasn't because of you. It was me. I was scared. I was lost." "Scared?" I repeated, the bitterness rising in my throat. "You left me for him. Don't make excuses for that." Sophia reached across the table, but I pulled my hand away. I wasn't ready to touch her again, not yet. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said quietly, the weight of the words settling in. "I don't even know if I want to." I hadn't planned on finding out the truth. I just wanted to move on, to get away from the constant ache of betrayal. But sometimes, you can't avoid the truth, no matter how much you try. I was sitting in my apartment, sipping the coffee I had barely touched, when I got the call from Detective Laura Hall. She'd been helping me piece together the fragments of Sophia's life that didn't make sense. "Jake," she said, her voice serious, "I've got something. You need to know what Ethan's been up to." I felt a knot form in my stomach. "What do you mean?" I asked, sitting up straighter. "What are you talking about?" "Meet me at my office. I've got files on Ethan. Things he's been hiding." I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my jacket and headed straight to her office, the weight of her words gnawing at me. When I arrived, Laura was already waiting, her desk cluttered with papers and files. "Here," she said, handing me a folder thick with documents. "Ethan King isn't just some billionaire playboy. He's been manipulating people for years, including Sophia." I opened the folder, skimming through the pages, my blood running cold with every word. Ethan had used his wealth to control people, to get what he wanted no matter the cost. And it was clear now that Sophia was just another pawn in his game. "He's been playing you too, Jake," Laura continued. "Sophia didn't just fall for him because of money. He used her insecurities against her, promised her everything, made her feel special, then used her to get to you. She was never really free." I closed the folder, my hand shaking slightly as I processed the information. Sophia, the woman I thought I knew, wasn't just a victim of her own choices. She had been manipulated, and I was just another part of his plan. "This doesn't make sense," I muttered, more to myself than to her. Why didn't she tell me? Why did she let him control her like that? Laura leaned forward, her expression sympathetic but firm. "'Cause Ethan is good at what he does. He's been doing it for years. And Sophia, she's always had doubts about herself. He preyed on that. You weren't just her boyfriend, Jake. You were the person she needed to prove she could hold on to. But Ethan's power, it overwhelmed her." I felt a mix of anger and sadness. I had trusted her. I'd given everything to her. And now it felt like I'd been living in a lie. "That's not all," Laura added, her voice quieter now. I dug into Sophia's past. Her mother, Lena. She's been feeding Sophia's insecurities for years. "Lena," I repeated, confused. "Sophia's mother? What does she have to do with this?" Laura slid another file across the desk. "She's always been critical of Sophia, always made her feel like she wasn't good enough. Lena's own issues have affected Sophia more than you realize. Her need to be perfect, to prove herself, comes from deep-rooted things her mother made her believe." I opened the file, the details hitting me like a ton of bricks. Sophia had grown up with a mother who never praised her, only pushed her harder, demanded more. Lena's words had always cut deep, telling Sophia she would never amount to anything unless she lived up to the impossible expectations her mother set. I closed the file, my mind reeling. How could I not see this? "So what now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Do I just forgive her? Do I pretend like none of this matters?" Laura sighed, her tone gentle but resolute. "I'm not telling you what to do, Jake, but what you've learned about Ethan, about Sophia. This is bigger than you. This is about healing for both of you. You're angry, and you have every right to be. But now you know the truth." I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my temples. The truth. What did it even mean anymore? Could I still be angry at her? Or did I have to feel sorry for her? Was I just supposed to let it all go because of this new information? You're saying it wasn't just her fault? I asked, looking at Laura. That she didn't choose him over me because she wanted to? That she was just a victim? Laura didn't answer immediately. She just met my gaze, her eyes full of understanding. Yes and no. She made her choices, Jake, but those choices were influenced by a lot of things. And it wasn't just Ethan who manipulated her. I nodded slowly, my mind spinning. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about understanding, about trying to make sense of a situation that didn't make sense. But the question still lingered, did that mean I could forgive her? I didn't know. I couldn't answer that yet. A few days later, I saw Lena. I had to.
Yes.
If I was going to understand Sophia, I needed to understand where it all started. I knocked on the door of her house, my heart pounding as I waited. When Lena opened it, she looked at me with surprise and a touch of suspicion. "Jake?" she asked, her voice wary. "What are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you," I said, my voice steady but firm. "About Sophia, about everything." Lena didn't invite me in, but she didn't turn me away either. "Come in then," she said reluctantly, stepping aside. Inside the house was quiet, sterile, like a place that had never been a home. As I sat down, Lena took the chair across from me, folding her hands in her lap. "What do you want to know?" she asked, her tone guarded. "Everything," I said simply. "Why did you do that to her? Why did you make her feel like she wasn't enough?" Lena's expression shifted. Just a flicker, but enough to show a hint of vulnerability. "I never meant to hurt her," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I just wanted her to be better than I was, but I guess I made her believe she could never be good enough." I didn't know what to say. The woman who had shaped Sophia's world was now admitting she had made mistakes. But it didn't change what had happened. The damage was done. It felt like a weight lifting off my chest when I saw Ethan's face on the front page of the news. "He's finally getting what he deserves." The headline blared. "Billionaire Ethan King faces multi-million-dollar lawsuit. Financial collapse looms." I couldn't help the small, twisted smile that pulled at my lips. This was karma, right? Ethan's arrogance, his smug smile. The way he had strutted around like he owned the world, all of it, was crumbling before him. I set the paper down, leaning back in my chair. This is it. After everything he had done, I should have felt victorious. But I didn't. The anger I had been holding on to was still there, but now it just felt empty. "Jake, what are you doing?" Rachel's voice pulled me from my thoughts. I didn't even realize she had come in. I looked up at her, her brow furrowed as she walked into the room. "Just reading the news," I muttered, pointing to the paper. "Ethan's got his own problems now." She didn't sit down, standing across the room, watching me carefully. "You think that'll fix anything?" she asked softly, her voice lacking judgment but full of concern. I tossed the paper aside, rubbing my hands over my face. "It's not about fixing anything," I replied. "It's just ... It feels good to know that for once, he's the one paying the price." Rachel walked closer, her footsteps quiet against the hardwood floor. She sat down beside me, her hand resting gently on my arm. "Jake, you can't keep holding on to this. It's not going to change anything. You're not going to get anything out of watching him fall." I wanted to snap at her. I wanted to say that I deserved this small victory, that after everything I had earned this moment. But instead, I just sighed, looking away from her. "I don't know, Rachel. Feels like he's been getting away with everything for so long. I just ... wanted to see him suffer like I did." She squeezed my arm. "But it's not about him anymore, is it? You've been holding on to this anger for so long, but look at you, it's eating you alive, Jake." I hated that she was right, but I couldn't admit it. Not yet. It's just ... hard. You know? He took everything from me. Sophia, my trust. Now he's got everything. Or he did. Rachel's eyes softened as she watched me, her voice quieter now. "I get it. But you can't keep living in this. It's not going to bring you peace." I clenched my fists, the frustration and bitterness swirling inside me. "I don't know what else I'm supposed to do," I muttered. "I still feel like I haven't gotten my closure, like I still need something from this." She sighed, her hand moving to my shoulder, rubbing it gently. "What more do you need, Jake? You're letting him take up all your energy. He's already ruined your life once. Don't let him do it again." I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell her how I couldn't just forget, how I couldn't move on so icily. But as I looked at her, I realized I wasn't angry at her. wasn't angry at Rachel for pushing me. I was angry at myself. I was angry for still caring about Sophia, for still feeling like maybe, just maybe, I could forgive her. Rachel pulled me from my thoughts. "You know that Ethan's downfall isn't your victory, right?" she asked, her tone more serious now. "You're still holding on to something that doesn't belong to you anymore?" I ran my hands through my hair, feeling the weight of her words. "I know," I admitted quietly. "But every time I think about her, about Sophia, I want to see him pay. I want him to hurt like I did." Rachel nodded, her expression softening. "But you can't build your future on someone else's destruction. You'll never be free of this pain if you keep focusing on him, on what he did to you." "I don't know how to let go," I whispered, more to myself than to Rachel. She stood up, moving in front of me, her hand resting on my cheek. "You don't have to do it alone, Jake. You can move on. You will move on. But you have to let go of the anger first." Her words hit me harder than I expected. She wasn't just talking about Ethan or Sophia. She was talking about me, about the way I'd been drowning in my own resentment. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I stared at her, feeling something inside me crack open. I had spent so much time trying to punish Ethan, trying to punish myself, that I hadn't even considered what I wanted, what I truly needed. Rachel's eyes softened as she knelt beside me. "Jake, let it go. You deserve more than this. You deserve peace. And I'll be here whenever you're ready to take that first step." For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I was ready to move on. I didn't know if I could forgive Sophia, if I could forgive myself for caring so much. But as I looked at Rachel, as I felt the weight of her words pressing against my heart, I realized that maybe, just maybe, it was time to try. I couldn't breathe as I stood outside the restaurant, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. This was it. The final showdown. I had spent months trying to move on, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do with my life after everything had been ripped from me. Here I was, about to face the two people who had destroyed it all. Sophia, Ethan. I stepped inside, my eyes scanning the room, until I found them sitting together at the far end. She was wearing that smile, the one she used to wear when she was genuinely happy, and for a moment it almost broke me. I used to love seeing that smile.
Yes.
I used to think it was just for me. But it wasn't, not anymore. Sophia looked up when she saw me, her face falling the moment she realized I was here. She stood almost automatically, but I didn't move. I wasn't here for any pleasantries. "Ethan," I said, my voice cold as ice as I turned to look at him. He stood up too, a smirk forming on his face that made me want to throw up. "Jake," he said, his tone smooth, like we were meeting for business and not for a confrontation that had been building for months. "I was wondering when you'd show up." I didn't acknowledge his attempt at humor. "You took everything from me," I said, my voice low but sharp. "You don't get to stand there and act like nothing's wrong." Sophia took a step toward me, her voice trembling. "Jake, I know." I cut her off, my anger flaring up again. "You don't get to apologize now, Sophia. You don't get to just walk back into my life and pretend like everything's okay." She stepped back, her face pale. I could see the guilt in her eyes, but it didn't matter. Nothing mattered anymore. Ethan stepped forward, his voice laced with arrogance. "Jake, you need to understand, this isn't just about you. This was never about you. It was always about me getting what I wanted." He looked at Sophia as if he owned her, like she was just a piece of property he could claim when he felt like it, and I got it. I took a step toward him, my hands shaking from the fury building inside me. "You're a coward," I spat. "You used her insecurities, her vulnerabilities to get what you wanted. And you didn't even care who you hurt along the way." Ethan laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Shh. What's your point, Jake? You think I'm the bad guy here?" We both know who was weak in this situation. His eyes flicked to Sophia, then back to me, as if to drive the knife in deeper. She made her choice. I was done listening to him. I turned to Sophia, my voice tight with the words I had been holding in for so long. "You chose him," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You made a choice to leave me, to betray me for him. And then you have the nerve to stand here and apologize, like it's supposed to fix everything." Sophia's eyes welled with tears, but it didn't matter. Nothing mattered anymore. "I was wrong," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I know I hurt you. I know I betrayed you, and I regret it every day. But I was lost, Jake. I was confused, and Ethan, ... He made me feel like I mattered. He made me feel special. Special? I repeated, my voice rising. Is that what you call it? Throwing everything we had away for him? That wasn't enough for you. Was love not enough? Sophia flinched, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Never meant to hurt you, she said, her voice barely audible. But you did, I said, the words coming out like they were meant to cut both of us. And no matter how many times you say you're sorry, it won't change what happened. It won't change the fact that you left me. You made your choice, Sophia, and I can't just pretend like that doesn't matter. There was a long pause, a thick silence that felt suffocating. Ethan's gaze never wavered as he watched us, his smugness still present even as everything around him was falling apart. You don't get to make me the villain here, Ethan said, his tone cold now, more dangerous. I did what I had to do. I took what I wanted, and I'm not apologizing for it. I turned on him, the anger surging through me like a tidal wave. You think you can just do whatever you want because you have money? You think you can buy everything? People like you always think they're untouchable. But let me tell you something. Ethan Karma is a bitch, and sooner or later, it always catches up. He narrowed his eyes, his hand twitching as if he wanted to swing at me, but he didn't. He knew better. He knew I was right. You think I'm afraid of karma? Ethan sneered. I don't need to worry about that. I have everything I need, Jake. I've already won. Sophia took a step back, tears streaming down her face. Please, she whispered. Stop. This isn't what I wanted. I never wanted any of this. I looked at her, my heart aching, but the truth was still there. I couldn't go back. Not now. Not after everything. I turned to leave, my chest tight with emotion. I couldn't fix this. I couldn't keep letting myself be caught in the web of lies and betrayal. I had to walk away no matter how much it hurt. As I reached the door, I heard Sophia's voice one last time. Jake, ... I love you. But it was too late. My love for her had died a long time ago. I woke up that morning with the weight of everything still on my mind. The same thoughts that had been haunting me for months were still there, lurking in the background, but for the first time, it didn't feel as heavy. I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. I didn't recognize the man staring back at me not because of the way I looked, but because of the man I had become. For so long, I had been consumed by anger, betrayal, and revenge. I had let the past control me, but not anymore. The phone buzzed on the counter, interrupting my thoughts. It was a message from Rachel. Are you okay? You haven't responded to my texts. I stared at the message, hesitating. It had been days since the confrontation with Sophia and Ethan, and I still hadn't been able to answer her. How do I even explain this to her? I didn't need to. I already knew what I had to do. I wasn't the same person I was when I met Rachel. I had spent too long in the past, holding on to the idea of revenge, of finding some closure in hurting the people who hurt me. But I realized that wasn't the way to live. That wasn't who I wanted to be. I typed back to Rachel, I'm good. Thanks for checking on me. I've made a decision. I left it at that. I needed to make a change, no more lingering in the shadows of my past. The next day, I walked into the office with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in months. I had always been good at my job, but it had been a while since I'd cared about it. I had let distractions, Sophia, Ethan, the paint take me away from what I needed to focus on. My boss, Sarah, walked by and gave me a nod. Jake, good to see you back on track, she said. Her words weren't an accusation or a reprimand. They were just an observation, giving her a small smile. I'm ready to get back to work. And that was the truth. I was ready. It felt like I had been living in a fog, unsure of what I wanted, who I wanted to be. But now, it was clear. It was time to take control of my life, to build something of my own, without the shadow of my past following me. Later that afternoon, I found myself at a small cafe, sitting by the window. I had decided to do something I hadn't done in months, just sit and think, without distractions, without the chaos in my mind. As I sipped my coffee, I allowed myself to reflect on everything that had happened. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the anger. For the longest time, I thought that holding on to those feelings would somehow make me stronger. I thought that revenge would give me the satisfaction I needed. But now, I realized it was only holding me back. Sophia had been a part of my life, but she didn't define who I was. Neither did Ethan, and I couldn't keep giving them power over me. My phone buzzed again. It was another message from Rachel. I'm glad to hear that. I know things have been tough. Just remember, you don't have to go through this alone. I smiled at her words. Rachel had been patient with me even when I hadn't been ready to move on. She had been there, offering support when I needed it most. But now, I needed to offer myself that same support. I replied, I know, and I'm grateful for that. I think I'm finally ready to move forward. I paused for a moment, thinking about the past. It was strange there was no rush of anger anymore, no resentment bubbling up, just a sense of finality, of closure. The next few days passed in a blur. I focused on my work, started putting in extra hours at the office, and began to reconnect with people I had neglected. Slowly, the weight lifted from my chest. The bitterness, the regret started to fade. I found myself spending more time with Rachel, talking about everything and nothing at all. We laughed, shared our thoughts. And, for the first time in a long time, I felt ... light. One evening, as we sat on the couch, Rachel turned to me, her eyes searching mine. "Jake, you're different," she said softly. "In a good way. You seem at peace." I nodded, a small smile tugging at my lips. "I am. I finally let go of the past, Rachel. It's not easy, but I'm moving forward, and I can't keep looking back." Her smile was warm, her hand resting on mine. "I'm proud of you." I squeezed her hand gently. "Thank you. I think I'm finally ready to see what comes next." Later that night, as I lay in bed, I thought about everything that had happened. I had confronted the past. I had faced my demons, my pain, my anger, and now I was free. Sophia would always be a part of me, but she no longer defined me. And Ethan, he was just a chapter in a story I was closing for good. I took a deep breath, letting the silence of the night fill the room. For the first time in what felt like forever, I was ready to move on. To live. To be the person I was meant to be, not the person I had been. And for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: hope. I didn't expect to hear from her again. After everything that had happened, after the confrontation and all the hurt that had been spilled, I thought I had put Sophia behind me. But life has a funny way of throwing things back in your face when you least expect it. The phone rang one morning, and I saw her name on the screen. I hesitated for a moment, my heart skipping a beat. But I didn't pick up. I had moved on. I didn't need closure from her. But she wasn't done. A few minutes later, I got a text. "Jake, I need to see you. Please. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen, my mind racing. Hadn't thought about her in weeks. Not like this. Anger, the hurt. All of it had slowly faded, replaced by something that felt like peace. I had moved on. I had let go of everything that kept me tied to the past. But part of me, just a small part, still wondered what she wanted, why she was reaching out now. I thought back to the night we confronted each other, the pain in her eyes, the regret. But it wasn't enough. Not anymore. I texted back, "You've already had your chance, Sophia. I can't do this again." I set my phone down, trying to focus on work. But the thought of her, of everything we had been through, kept creeping in. I couldn't help but wonder if she had changed. But deep down, I knew better. Some things, some people, don't change. 2 days later, I heard from Mason. He'd been my closest friend through all of this, and I could tell by the tone of his voice that something was wrong. "Jake, you need to hear this," he said when I picked up the phone. "I don't know how to say this, but you should know. Sophia, she's in trouble. Her life's falling apart." I was silent for a moment. "What do you mean falling apart?" "She lost everything. Ethan's pulling away, the business she invested in is tanking, and she's facing legal trouble. She's lost her job, Jake. She's begging for help." From you, I felt a flicker of something: sympathy. Maybe, but it was quickly replaced by indifference. I had seen this coming. "Karma. I can't help her, Mason," I said, my voice steady. "Not after everything. She made her choices. And now, She has to deal with them. You sure? Mason asked quietly. She's asking for you. She wants to apologize one last time, to make things right. I shook my head, even though he couldn't see it. It's too late for that. She doesn't get to undo everything. I hung up, staring out the window. I thought I was done with it. I thought I had moved on. But now it felt final. Sophia was a part of my past, a part of a chapter I had closed. Later that evening, I went for a walk to clear my head. The cool air felt good against my skin, and as I walked through the quiet streets, I realized how much lighter I felt. I'd finally let go. When I got home, there was another message from Sophia. This time, the words were simple but heavy. I'm sorry for everything, Jake. I need to see you one last time. Please. I didn't reply. What could I say? What was there left to say? The next morning, I saw the news. Sophia Carter faces financial ruin after major business deal collapses. I didn't feel any satisfaction reading it. If anything, I just felt ... numb. This was it. This was the moment where everything she had built crumbled. I didn't hate her anymore. I didn't feel angry. But I also didn't feel anything else. She had made her choices, and now she was facing the consequences. I couldn't be a part of that. A week passed and I didn't hear from her again. I figured that was it. That was the end of it. Then, one afternoon, I ran into her at the park. She was sitting alone on a bench, looking smaller than I remembered. I couldn't ignore it, so I walked over. She looked up when she heard me approach, her eyes red, her face drawn. She looked nothing like the woman I had once loved. Jake, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I didn't say anything at first. I just stood there, letting the silence hang between us. She wiped her eyes and took a shaky breath. I don't know what to say. I've messed everything up, haven't I? Her voice cracked as she spoke. I lost everything. I don't even know how to fix it. I thought you'd be the one to help me, but I see now. I see how much I hurt you. I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself. I could hear the regret in her voice, but it didn't move me the way it used to. The anger had faded, but so had the love. What I felt now was something else, something like understanding, maybe. But more than anything, it was peace. I can't help you, Sophia, I said quietly. Can't undo the past, and I can't be a part of your mess anymore. You've got to face this on your own. Her face crumpled in sadness, but I didn't feel the urge to comfort her. It wasn't my place anymore. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I wish I could go back and do everything differently. I nodded, taking one last look at her. I know, but it's too late. I turned and walked away, the weight of everything finally lifting from my chest. I didn't need to say anything else. I had finally let go, and it felt good. It's funny how quickly things can change. Not in the way I expected, not overnight, but in a quiet, subtle shift. I didn't feel it all at once. But today, this morning, I realized that I was no longer living in the past. I was standing in front of my bedroom mirror, buttoning up my shirt, getting ready for the day. I looked at myself not with anger or resentment, but with something else. Something that had been missing for so long, peace. I finally made it. I finally let go. The phone buzzed on my dresser. It was a text from Rachel. Are you still coming over later? I smiled, typing back, of course. I'm on my way. For the first time in ages, I was looking forward to something. Spending time with someone who didn't remind me of the pain. Someone who made me feel like I was enough just as I was. When I arrived at Rachel's apartment, she greeted me at the door with that same warm smile that made my chest tighten, but in the best way possible. You're early, she said with a playful grin. I'm just excited, I replied, stepping inside. What's the plan for today? She rolled her eyes but grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the couch. Well, first, we're going to sit down and actually talk about how you've been for the past week. I raised an eyebrow, but I didn't resist. I've been good, really good. I stopped myself, realizing just how true that was. I'm finally in a good place, Rachel. Her eyes softened as she sat down beside me. I'm glad to hear that, Jake. You've been through so much. You deserve to feel at peace. I nodded, but it wasn't just about the peace. It was about moving forward. Moving on from everything that had weighed me down. I think I've finally realized something. I've been holding on to the past for so long, trying to fix it, trying to get some kind of closure, but I can't keep doing that. It's not helping me. It's just holding me back. Rachel's hand found mine, her fingers squeezing mine gently. So what's next? She asked softly. I looked at her, feeling something new. Hope. I think it's time for me to embrace the future. I've spent so much of my life looking back at Sophia, at Ethan, at the things I couldn't change, but I can't keep doing that. I need to focus on what's ahead, what's real, what I can control. Rachel smiled, her eyes brightening. I'm really proud of you, Jake. I know it's not easy to let go, especially when it feels like everything you thought you knew was just taken away. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything I'd been carrying lift just a little more. It wasn't easy. It still isn't, but I've learned something important through all of this. I deserve to be happy, and I deserve to build something for myself. She leaned in, her forehead resting against mine for a brief moment. You do. You absolutely do. And I'm here for you, whatever that means. I smiled, feeling her warmth. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of the future. I wasn't afraid of moving on. I wasn't afraid of what came next. Thank you, Rachel, I whispered. I never thought I'd get here, but I think I'm finally ready. The days passed in a blur of small moments, some good, some challenging, but all leading to a future that felt brighter. I didn't think about Sophia anymore, not the way I used to. I didn't spend my nights replaying every word, every moment. The memories still lingered, but they didn't have a hold on me anymore. I had let go. It wasn't just about forgiving the people who hurt me. It was about forgiving myself. It's about accepting that I wasn't perfect, but I was still worth something. I had been holding on to the idea of what I had with Sophia, but now I saw that it was just an illusion. What mattered now was who I was becoming. Who I was with Rachel, who I was for myself. I was standing at the kitchen counter, sipping my coffee, when Rachel joined me. You look like you've got something on your mind, she said, a playful smile tugging at her lips. I turned to her, feeling lighter than I had in a long time. I do, I said, my smile matching hers. I think I'm finally figuring out who I am again. And I think I'm okay with that. She leaned in, kissing me softly. I think you're more than okay. I think you're exactly where you need to be. I held her close, letting her warmth wrap around me. It was real. It was here. For the first time in so long, I knew that I had finally made the right choice. I was moving on. I was ready for whatever came next.